The question everybody always asks is, if their accountants know everything about finance, why aren't they all wealthy? And very often you see that accountants might make a comfortable living, but they're not necessarily wealthy. You may see wealthy people who are accountants, but you won't see many accountants who are wealthy. But why should you trust what I say? Well, my name is Izzy, a chartered accountant, and I've been in this space for over a decade. And in that time, I have seen some of the biggest transformations in how businesses operate their finances ever to be seen. And I have witnessed those businesses that have embraced these changes have seen success and efficiencies like never before. When you're growing up, they always tell you, pay attention in school, work hard in school, get good grades. You know why? Because then you'll get into a good university and you'll get a good job, find somebody who's willing to pay you lots of money. But what they don't tell you in school, that in finance, it's not necessarily about how hard you work. It's about risk and reward, supply and demand, and various other factors. So if you're going and doing the same thing as everybody else, and there's loads of people who can do what you do, then you're in a position where the supply and demand tension is quite loose. There's loads of supply, maybe not enough to keep the demand. You may be one of those people who goes into a profession where the supply and demand tension is quite tight. There might not be many people who can do what you do, and there might be people all over trying to get you to come and work for them, which is great. But as an employee, you're trading your time for money. You're limiting the risk that you take. And with risk comes reward. And that's where accountants fail. Because as accountants, we are always trained how to avoid risk wherever possible. Everything's about a risk assessment. Everything's risk adverse. So if your mindset is constantly trying to avoid risks, then you're running away from the very thing that pays you the most money. If you look at investments, you'll see that those that offer the highest returns carry the biggest risk. What does that tell you? And just by the way, that was not financial advice. I'm just saying it as a fact. So knowledge is great. Knowing finance, understanding things is very important to make sure you take calculated risks. Just because there is a risk there doesn't mean there's a reward. For example, if you go jump in a lake, there's a very strong risk that you're going to die. There's not necessarily any reward for it. So if you don't have the knowledge, you might take risks thinking you're going to make money on it. But really what you're doing is you're jumping in the lake, taking risk with no reward. So what the knowledge does, gives you the information and the skills to know when that risk is going to have a reward attached to it and when it's just a pointless risk. So those accountants who break out of that circle are willing to take the risks. They take calculated, educated risks. And that's why you see wealthy people who are accountants, but you don't see accountants who are wealthy, because the accountants don't want to take risk. So when I advise my clients, I'll always say to them, you're never going to go about avoiding every single risk in your life. When I spell out the risks of you doing X or Y, as long as it's legitimate and legal, I'm not telling you don't do it. What I am doing is I'm giving you that information so you can take a calculated decision and know what risks you get yourself into and whether or not it's worthwhile for you to do it. Smarter finance, scale to your business.